Hi, I'm John DeDakis. I'm a novelist, a writing coach, a manuscript editor, and a former editor on CNN's The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. You're one-to-one with me, and I'm one-to-one with organist Caroline Robinson. There she is, sitting at the console of the organ at the cathedral, the Episcopal Cathedral of St. Philip in Atlanta. Caroline, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, John.
This is fun, and I normally interview authors and people like that, but I think you're a special person to interview because you're young, but you're at the beginning of a tremendously successful career of traveling the world and playing the organ, not to mention working at a major venue in Atlanta. So what I'd like you to do first is show us a little bit about sort of the workings of the organ. I mean, this is a lot of people go to church and they hear the organ, but it's not in a place where people can really see it. So I'm giving you the opportunity to take us behind the veil and show us a little bit about it, and I may interrupt with a question or two.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for asking. What's I think important to know first is that the organ is not just this what we call console behind me, where the keys are and also the pedals, which are down there. The organ really is what's behind me, all of these pipes,
Uh-huh.
and what actually fuels the pipes, which is wind. So the organ is a wind instrument, and the way that the console talks to the pipes is through electric connection. These days, it used to be done manually. We call that mechanical action or tracker organs. We won't get into that too much today, but just know that you can't have this in its true pipe organ form without the pipes. So here is the console. As I mentioned, that's an important vocab word to know. And we have what look like keyboards, piano keyboards, but they're actually called manuals. And the manuals are powered by or associated with what we call divisions. So divisions you can think of as different sections of an orchestra. In fact, the organ is like a big orchestra. And so the divisions kind of organize all of the sounds. And you see all these knobs. I'm going to actually pick up, I hope this is okay. I'm going to pick up the computer so you guys can see. And these are all called stops. You can see some of them are blank. They're prepared for maybe future use. But the ones with writing on them each correspond to what we call a rank of pipes, which is a group of pipes that have the same sound, but they are at different pitch levels depending on how big or small the pipe is. Bigger pipes have lower pitches, and smaller pipes have higher pitches. And so there's different members of the orchestra represented in each division. You can see we have a trumpet. If you can read backwards, good for you. You'll see that this says trumpet, this says oboe, this says flute, this says viol de gamme, which is a kind of string. So all of those stops are grouped into divisions, and we have 5 divisions on the cathedral organ, actually 6, including the pedal. Oh my goodness, 7. But some of them share a manual. So it can get pretty complicated pretty quickly, but it's just important to know that the stops correspond to groups of pipes, and the stops are grouped on divisions, and each division corresponds to a manual. So if I pull out a stop, I'm going to look for the great on what's called the great division. Here's the principal 8 on the great. Here's the great manual. We hear that beautiful what's called foundation stop from the great division. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, it does. Keep going. You're doing fine.
Great. Okay. So then another indispensable part of the pipe organ. What have I missed, John?
Help me understand a little bit better why there are multiple levels of manuals.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get you to tell me that I've actually missed the lowest, what we call division or group of pipes in the pedal division, which we play with our feet. So the reason that there's all these different manuals, we'll call them manuals, is that we need to play different things at the same time. So maybe I want to accompany myself with my left hand and play a melody with the right hand, like um, so you hear the melody very prominently because I'm playing it on the great 8-foot principle, which I just introduced to you. And I decided to accompany myself with some softer sounds from the swell. So that's one reason we have different manuals. Another reason is because maybe we want to combine the sounds from the great and the swell. And that's what we call coupling. So what I'm going to do right now is press a tab that says swell to great. And you can think of that as I'm cooking. I just put the swell and the grate in a bowl together and I mixed them up. And now I have both divisions sounding at the same time. So those are kind of two different reasons why we need different manuals, to play different sounds at the same time or to combine sounds together. And I can use that coupling mechanism, that mixing them in a bowl together, really with any combination of manuals that I want, or also with the pedals.
And this means you have to be incredibly ambidextrous because you're also using your feet on the pedals while you're,
Yes.
I mean, there's no way I could do something like this. How do you do it?
Well, I mean, you can learn anything with enough practice and with taking enough time and going slowly at first. But I think the more that you can kind of get a sense for theory, the better you can understand, okay, well, my feet are going to be playing the bass notes of every chord. Sometimes they might not be, but it just kind of becomes ingrained. And so I'm going to pull out what's called 16-foot. We're going to get in we could really get into the weeds here, but 16-foot is kind of the bass sound for pedal notes because they are playing an octave below what we call 8-foot pitch. Here's 8-foot pitch. Just for simplicity, I'm going to pull out a 16-foot stop that's on the grate. Excuse me. Hear how that's an octave below, even though I played in the same place?
Right.
So 16 is going to give us that bass sound, the sound of bass notes. So here, I promise I'm playing with my pedals, with the pedals, even if you can't see it that well. So I hope that kind of gives us an explanation of how we combine sounds and also the way that we need to distribute between the hands and the feet in order to get the effect of the bass and then supporting the upper voices.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to take something from your website of you playing. The fidelity will be a little bit better than the mic in your
Yes.
laptop. Why don't you set this up?
Yeah, so John, you chose a great piece. This is the Grand Cours Dialogué by Eugène Gigoux, a French composer from the late 1900s. And he played in a big cathedral, the Saint Augustin, Église Saint Augustin, not cathedral, but a really large church in Paris, and by a famous French builder, Aristide Cavaillé-Coll. This is not a Cavaillé-Coll instrument, but it does this music very well because there's lots of trumpets. You'll hear trumpets, bombard, which is also a reed sound, tubas, and also chorus reeds that are designed to be played with other sounds as well.
Plus, what I like about this particular clip is that we'll be able to see your feet at the same time to see how it all
That
comes
pedal
together.
cam is a nice feature.
The pedal cam, who knew? Okay, let's take a listen. Big finish. Nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
The I would imagine that the foundations of St. Philip's Cathedral kind of, they have to keep checking them to make sure that it's the church is still on the foundation, right?
I do think that this church is structurally sound, but you can occasionally see the live stream camera shaking if it's a big enough registration. Registration is the word, by the way, that we use for the specific combination of sounds that we have saved. And I wanted to mention one more thing about the organ, if you don't mind.
Please.
But there are these buttons underneath each manual. We're using our new vocabulary. And those are where I can save specific combinations of sounds. You
Mhm.
see how things are changing as I
Mhm.
press successive numbers?
Oh,
So these
yeah.
are called pistons, and I'm pressing what's called general pistons, which I've saved these combinations as I've been practicing and selecting the repertoire that I'm going to play. And if I had to change stops by hand all the time, I would never be able to play the complex repertoire that is possible for the pipe organ. But the fact that I have these pistons means that I can operate them, and I do operate them while I'm playing. So you might think, oh, playing the organ is so complicated because you have to use your hands and your feet. Well, actually, what's most complicated is not just playing with your hands and feet, but also making all these adjustments so that the sound is correct. Because without the correct registration, we aren't really fully playing a piece of music that's written for the organ.
But it also depends. I mean, this is a pretty top-notch organ. I'm sure you've played a few toasters in your life as well, right?
Toaster is the technical term for an electronic organ. So if that's what you mean, I've played a couple of them, but I definitely prefer and advocate for real organs with pipes.
And so,
So,
and what are
yeah.
some of the amazing ones you've played?
Well, when I think about some performances I've had in the past year, in the summer of 2022, I got to go to San Diego where they have an amazing organ that's outdoors called the Spreckles Organ Pavilion is where it's located. And it's an organ that is actually outside. Most of the pipes are located inside to protect them, but there actually is a rank of pipes, a couple ranks of pipes that you can see outside. And then the console is played outdoors. And actually, when I was preparing that concert, I got sunburned because I just didn't think about the fact that the sun would be beating down on me every day. And so that is really an incredible feat of technology and preservation because they have to know exactly what to do to make sure that organ is protected. They also need to be able to move it around. They have it on a hoverboard. It's really quite amazing. So that
How
was
did
fun.
how did you know that you want? I mean, was this idea of playing the organ something that happened to you when you were very young? I mean, how did this all come about?
So I grew up in a family of musicians. My whole family does music professionally. My mom is a violinist, my sister's a violinist, and my dad is a conductor as well as a percussionist. He just kind of knows everything. And so I grew up playing the piano and the violin, and I was always the runt of the family in terms of violin because my mom and older sister were already amazing by the time I started. So I really wanted to find something that was my own and something that was unique. I wasn't specifically looking, but one day we had a new organist at our church. His name is Adam Pagan. And he was only 17 when he got the job. And I don't know, it was like my ears were opened. It was one of his first Sundays, and we stayed behind to listen to his postlude. And something inside me changed. And I said to my mom, Mom, I think I can do that. It was this confidence that came over me. I had no reason to have it at that point.
How old
And
were
she
you?
said, Okay, I was 12.
Okay.
And she said, "Well, let's find out." And Adam became my teacher. He was such an important part of my formation as an organist, still a great dear friend of mine. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I never looked back. It was never like, well, should I be doing something else? And to this day, it's like, well, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel so very, very grateful for that.
I mean, you seem to be really in the groove. And I mean, I met you when my wife Cindy was the choir director at St. Thomas's Episcopal Church in White Marsh near Philadelphia. And you were,
Yeah.
I think, Zach Hemingway's organ scholar. You were at Curtis. Were you at
Yes.
Curtis at the time?
Yeah, I was at Curtis at the time. I was my second year at that point, and I was very baby in a lot of ways. I learned so much at Curtis and also from working with Zach.
Well, but you were also quite the prodigy because I mean, I remember, Cindy and I'd pick you up at the train station and you just knew what you were doing. I mean, you were very quiet, but Cindy has, I'm trying to get, if you can convince Cindy to be a guest on my show sometime, um,
Oh, I
because
can work on that.
Cindy's a tremendous musician. In fact, that's how we met. I joined the church choir. She became the new choir director, but that's another story. But, Cindy knew you were good right from the very beginning. And so helped her out a lot. And one of the things that you do at the Cathedral of St. Philip is that you work with the choristers, the kids. Talk about that.
So the chorister program is based on the Royal School of Church Music curriculum, and that's a famous curriculum that teaches young people to sing primarily. It started in England, but it really has spread around the world, especially in the United States in the Episcopal Church. But not just Episcopal churches utilize this curriculum. And it's a way of teaching how to use the voice, also music literacy, which is so important. You can't learn to sight sing and be a functional member of a choir if you don't know what you're looking at on the page. And it also teaches young people the formation of faith, and so they learn about the church year, they learn about liturgical seasons, and what is the Eucharist, what is evensong. And so they just become entrenched in this long beautiful history of the marriage of faith and also music. And I just think it's wonderful. So I get the opportunity to work with choristers 3 times a week. We have rehearsals on Mondays and Thursdays, and when we have a special RSCM session on Tuesdays, and motivated kids can come and do special work on their cards. We call them RSCM cards. And when they finish one, it's kind of like in, what is it, Taekwondo, you get a different colored belt. It's kind of like that. When they finish a certain card, they get a ribbon of a certain color, and that demarcates how much progress they've made through the RSCM track. I know you probably know all this, since Cindy is such an important person in the RSCM America world. But
Were
yeah,
you
it's been so great.
were you a chorister growing up?
I was in my children's choir. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I didn't know about RCM till I started working with Zach, actually. And of course, I saw Cindy's program at St. Thomas Whitemarsh. And I just have had a lot of inspiring mentors in my path. And so I knew I wanted to work with kids in this very specific way that teaches them, I think intentional way is the word I'm looking for, about building their musical skills as well as their voices.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but you don't have to answer. But help me understand the connection, if there is one in your life, between what you do in terms of playing the organ, working with the kids, and your own personal spirituality.
Well, I think that, music is a way that we connect with others around us and also with a higher power. And I think it's this ageless practice, and I really mean the word practice, where the more you learn music and the more that you do music with others, kind of the deeper our spiritual relationships become. So yeah, I think it's an incredible gift.
Okay, and so that's part of you've integrated it into your life. It's your career. Um, do you see? I mean, you travel the world. Um, what's the most fun? Is it all fun? There's got to be some tedium in there somewhere.
I won't say tedium. I would say stress is a bigger kind of not fun aspect of it, but it's also exhilarating. Like, for example, um, just this year, I've had 2 solo concerts in different locations. One was out in California in La Jolla, and I just had one here in town locally at St. Luke's Episcopal Church, which also has an amazing organ. And the thing that makes organ difficult is also what makes it unique and so wonderfully exciting, which is that they're all different. All pipe organs are different. None of them are the same. Um, and so when you go to play a recital somewhere, maybe especially if you're traveling from out of town, you might have 2 or 3 days to get to know all of the stops, how the sounds work in combination with themselves, and also program all of the music in using pistons. We're using our vocab, using pistons, mark up all your scores, and then once that's done, you can finally practice everything in combination, but it's going to feel different and sound different depending on what organ you're on. So I think that's one of the most challenging parts, but I think I would miss that if I all of a sudden had an instrument that was the same wherever I went.
Yeah.
So it's
So
kind of a double-edged sword.
this is where the term pulling out all the stops comes from, right?
Yes, some people don't know that, but I do want to reiterate that that is an organ term, organ phrase.
So what's next for you? I mean, do you see, I mean, you're with Dale Ottelman at the Cathedral of St. Philip. Dean Sam Candler's been there for a long time. We went, Cindy
Yes,
and I went, Cindy was on the staff there for a long time. You come on the heels of David Fishburne, who was there forever. And so
love
you,
David.
yes. And so uh, uh, do you see yourself recording? Have you done, do you see yourself getting a Grammy? Or writing?
I would love that. I do want to make a recording in the next couple of years. I have some music that I love that I want to share with the world, and some great organs and places to play. So that is definitely an immediate goal. I love what I do working at the cathedral. I love working with choirs. We also have a number of amazing collaborations we get to do here, like with the Atlanta Baroque Orchestra, who's an artist in residence actually here at the cathedral. We also routinely welcome members of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. So the fact that I get to make music, not just with choirs, but with lots of amazing instrumentalists is a real honor and pleasure. I also love to teach. I'm on faculty. I'm an artist affiliate at Agnes Scott College, which is in Decatur, which is a neighboring town to Atlanta. And teaching is something I'm deeply passionate about because I feel like I learn about my craft when I'm sharing it with someone else. And
Do you
I can
compose
solidify.
as well?
I, I don't compose so much. I probably should try my hand at it someday. I've made arrangements. Especially at my last church job before this one, I was often writing arrangements for instruments who often played with us during the service and writing psalms and also descants. So I should try at some point.
Yeah.
There's only so many hours in a day, John. You should know this.
Well, and I mean, you make me feel like a slug, all the stuff that you're doing. How do you stay organized? What is there, because you're doing what you love and what you're good at. And that, I think, is always the recipe for a person's individual success. It has nothing to do with making money or anything like that. It's about doing what you love and what you're good at. But how do you stay organized? How do you keep it all together?
Well, I mean, I'm grateful for technology, and I can list a number of examples of that. Like, it's helpful that technology helps me keep my calendar together. And I also have a wonderful manager, John McElliott of Karen McFarland Artists, who helps me organize my concerts and some other professional events. And so that helps. And then I also want to put a plug in for the iPad, which is how I keep all of my music now. I don't use paper music anymore. So the fact that I don't have to have arts and crafts at the copy machine or lug around really heavy books, and everything is alphabetized in there, and so that has made a big difference as well.
Okay. Um, so what's next for you? Where are you going to be playing next? Is your year already filling up?
So I do have a number of events coming up, but most uh, in the future, coming up in the future is playing the Philip Glass harpsichord concerto, actually, with my dad conducting.
Oh,
So
nice.
Philip Glass is a minimalist composer, and he, still living today, and did not write music that we often first think of when we think of the harpsichord, but it's actually really cool. And I'm so glad that my dad asked me to perform with him while he conducts the Greenville Symphony Chamber Orchestra in March. So that's coming up soonest. And in the summer, actually, I'm doing something I haven't done before, which is going on tour with the cathedral choir to St. Paul's, London, and also York Minster. And so that will be 2 weeks of evensongs and choral Eucharists on those fantastic instruments in those historic places. I'm really excited about that.
Are you pinching yourself with how your life is turning out?
You talked, John, about tedium and stress, and I think sometimes I have to remember to kind of zoom out and remember that it's such a gift to be able to do all these wonderful things, especially with the people. I think what I love about the pipe organ is it can be a very solitary instrument, and I consider myself a bit of an introvert, so it's nice to have time on the instrument by myself. But a lot of the work that I do is with other musicians, and they're all fantastic, and I learn so much from working with them. So yeah, I have to remember to pinch myself sometimes and acknowledge how much privilege I have.
And the way people can contact you is through your website, carolinerobinson.net. And so that way you'll be able to, I don't know, maybe mentor people or offer encouragement, maybe get other gigs. But that's the best portal for them to get through to you, right?
Yeah, I love talking to people about the organ. So if you have any questions, feel free to write to me.
I can tell. Is there anything else you want to talk about I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'm not sure. I mean, I think what's really cool about this organ is that there are pipes not only on the top there that are visible, but also down here, there's pipes. I'm trying to angle my, this is very confusing actually. Here we go. There are three
Oh yeah.
different divisions uh, on your left. Let me see, make sure I'm saying this right. Is the solo division where our
Mhm.
big reeds are. Um, Probably sounds pretty bad over this
No,
audio.
this is great.
And then there's also the swell division. Trying to get out of my own way is in the middle here. The swell division is the one we looked at earlier. Um, there's reeds on all these divisions, and then the choir is the other division. Um, and so we kind of have like a surround sound effect. One sec. But then there's also pipes, and I'm probably not being able to get the angle, but just beyond this altar screen
Mhm.
on the ceiling, in the ceiling, there's actually a division of pipes up there, and that's
Huh.
called the celestial. And if I played them right now, you wouldn't be able to hear them because of the audio quality not being so great over the video call. But it's this way of having um, this sonic experience where the sound is coming from different parts of the room, and I think that is just such a cool thing that the organ can do. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that we mentioned the 8-foot pipes are kind of like standard pitch level, maybe that you would find on a piano. But the lowest pipes we have are the 32. So 8 times 2 is 16. Those are kind of standard pedal range. But then below that is 32. And the 32-foot reed is just about the loudest thing on its very own on the organ. I'll play that for you on low C.
Okay. Oh my God.
And then the highest sounds we have on the organ is a 1-foot. So, you can imagine how many octaves that is above 8 foot. So 8 foot, an octave above that is going to be what? 4.
16.
And
There's
above
no
that,
math
above
with
that.
this. There's no math in this.
An octave above 4 is going to be 2. An octave above 2 is going to be 1 foot pipe. And so that's 4 octaves above middle C. And you probably won't be able to hear it, but here's the highest note on the 1-foot sip float. It's a flute stop. Hold on. There we go. Can you hear that?
It's like a dog whistle.
It is like a dog whistle. Yeah. So I just love the dynamic range, the range in tessitura, how high or low the pipes can be, and also just the different colors that I get to play with on the instrument.
Well, you're a fascinating person, and this has been so much fun. And I wish you continued success and fun doing what you do. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. We've been one-to-one
Thanks, John.
with Caroline Robinson, the organist, associate choir master at the Cathedral of St. Philip in Atlanta. I am John DeDakis, and my website is johndedakis.com. And Caroline, you can get a hold of through her website at carolinerobinson.net. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I really enjoyed our conversation today.